Welcome to this learning chapter on community-based solutions to urban design. The next two episodes, framed under the platform Architecture in Development, are a bridge between expertise from local to academic backgrounds. So in 2025, there were 25 selected projects that highlighted how different communities around the globe tackled urban problems. One of them is the Africa Village, based in Zimbabwe's rural urban interface, Harare. And understanding why and how local global collaboration enhances design is highly relevant in today's urban planning and development. So I'm Laura, and with my teammates Naira and Lorato, joined by Tushita from the AD team, we had the opportunity to meet the project leader from the Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions, Mr. Chikonsero Chansungusa, and the architect Cristina Siade to discuss this project. So welcome, thank you so much for being here. Since 2008, the Africa Village has brought together the differences and the cultural richness of the 54 African countries in one place. Could you please tell us about this project and how did it start?
Well, thank you so much, Laura, for having us here to share part of our journey in this very big endeavor that we are facing. And we thank the AD for the Architecture for Development for selecting our project or for seeing some value in our project that we've been working on for so long. The idea of the All Africa Village, which is under the Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions as an organization. The All Africa Village is just a project that comes under Dzimbanhete. And this is a project that has a long story behind it, a story that starts with art and creativity, a story that starts with myself as the director and founder of the project, and being an artist, wanting to impart knowledge to other artists about narratives that belong to the culture itself. Initially, while teaching, I realized there was a tendency of teaching art history from a very kind of weird perspective. The art history in the schools, colleges, and universities that I happen to teach here in Zimbabwe on the African continent seemed to be the same art history that's taught in Europe, which is basically European art history. And that frustrated me a lot because I felt like there were other narratives that could come out of the continent itself, other stories, other yardsticks that could come out of the culture itself that could inform the young artists. So moving out of the formal teaching platforms, quite a number of students followed me out of there, and they started primarily working at my own house. And this is a time when I had also made contact with a colleague of mine, Jonathan Samaita, who's a cultural holder, who's a healer, and is well versed with narratives from the land, narratives of the culture, and so forth. So for me, this became like an ideal sort of combination. With my creative background, I would take the students on a mentorship program in the creative side, and my colleague would take them on the narrative sort of journey of understanding who they are, where they came from, the essence of being as a Zimbabwean, for example. And this worked, and it created, out of that, emerged quite a number of Zimbabwean artists who are making it really big now. So our model seemed to work. So how the Africa Village comes in now, we're going into the materiality, how our form language comes into play. We wanted to go into creating a festival so that we could collect as much information on cultures, as much narratives as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to host a festival. So we're now looking at hosting a festival of cultures. And to imagine this festival happening under pavilions, under tents, it did not really work out well. So we decided we were going to build the very form language, which is the architecture, which is the indigenous language of these cultures, so that when they then come for this festival, they will have a space where they will display their material culture and act out their real lives without any sort of bastardization of their culture. This was also a way now to take our artists, our mentees or our mentorship programs through a space where they could now relate to the materiality, to the building, the form, and how the concepts in the architecture are structured. Like with this architecture, there is lots of underlying information. It's not just the wall. It's not just the bench. That bench is built because of ABC. That wall is there and it means ABC. That water place, that fireplace, all these spaces are not like empty. They are loaded with so much information. And we felt this would be also great if artists would now have this information as the basis of their inspiration. So this is the basis of the All Africa Village. And it's not like we have the 54 countries now in one space. That's our concept. We've been building slowly. And where I'm sitting here, this is the Igbo compound, for example. It's a structure. It's a three structured compound which makes like a family home, but it's three separate structures, two round ones and one which is almost like a rectangular sort of gazebo. And just to give a hint of the context behind it, the two round huts are for the two mothers. In the Igbo culture, a father can have two wives, polygamy. It has always been there in the culture. So it informed the building of the design. So here you have two round huts and one rectangular one where the father hangs out, where visitors and all guests and all ceremonies are held. So it's those concepts which now have become of major interest as they bring about more narratives for artists to get inspired with. And yeah, that's it. We have so the Igbo culture is represented. There's a Zulu, which is the Shona culture, Zimbabwean, is also represented, and this is also a very complex structure with inbuilt architecture that again has lots of content, rich in content. Thank you.
Mm, I really love how you have allowed the architecture to tell the narrative and the story of the people, right? Through this project, it does look like you have collaborated with international partners like Christina, who is the architect. So can you tell us how this people that you have brought into the project have responded to the cultural and the spiritual landscape of the Dzimbanhete?
Thank you.
Oh, and
Um,
oh, sorry, and maybe also to Christina, you can also think about how you have also as an architect and designer responded to the culture, and how that influenced how you design to the context of the site.
Great. From my end, with the All Africa Village being at this position where it is, the concept itself being very unique. You do not have anything like this in the world, as far as I know. Our research tells us we are the ones who are like building something that's like more pan-African in terms of cultural representation or indigenous cultural representation. So it gets a lot of people interested in what we are doing on a daily basis. We have like people coming in as on tours to get to hear about the project and to learn about the cultures we have on the ground. We have school children who also come by in their groups, like spending days here We organize sort of camps for them so they learn the culture and everything that goes with the culture. We have musicians and there are videographers who come to shoot their videos here. We have filmmakers who come to use also our space as a shooting site for their movies once in a while. And so also we have independent people who just walk in, particularly those who will be visiting Zimbabwe, and they want to stay overnight. They want to have a feel of this very architecture. Once you walk in and you experience the coolness that's in there, particularly on a hot day, you really want to relax in there and it makes you really relax. And so we have a couple who come in for that and they stay. And this is where we meet up with Christina, who was busy in Harare, on the outskirts of Harare, a small new neighborhood, I would say, sort of impoverished neighborhood, I would say. Most of our neighborhoods start like that. They almost start as sort of squatter camps in a way, and then they evolve, and then they are endorsed, and then they become neighborhoods. So there was Christina. I don't know, I'm not sure how she hooked up with those people there, but she designed a school there, and they were building a school in that neighborhood, a very beautiful school. And before we knew what she was doing out there, she had visited our space with another architect who has worked around the artists in Zimbabwe a lot. And she had seen Dzimbanhete and she said she wanted to stay overnight. So she stayed a night too and she enjoyed the space. Our landscape is very natural and it has these boulders, these hills, which are made up of granite boulders, like huge boulders. So it makes it a very good escape space for somebody who's tired of the city. So she stayed and then, well, not everybody who comes to stay gets to hear our full story. Some people just stay and they enjoy their space and they leave. But it came time with Christina where we started discussing our story, where we had come from and what we were doing, our plans, our major plans and stuff, our plans which included establishing a gallery space because now this All Africa Village is the indigenous culture side of Dzimbanhete. And we also have the contemporary art side where we still work with the contemporary artists and we still build like permanent installations and things like that. So we told her about our story of wanting to build a gallery and studio spaces. She asked where. We showed her the space and I'm sure things started ticking in her mind as well. A little after that, or fast forward, here we were now discussing with Christina the aspects of our indigenous architecture, what we believe our architecture brings to the table in the world of architecture, the insulated walls, the coolness, the air, the well preserving of any energy, be it sound, be it heat, be it the cold. In that round space, everything is maintained so well. There's no echo in those spaces. It's cool on a hot day. It's warm on a cold day, and all those things that go with it. Even um the spiritual metaphors. Where does a structure face, like the main structure in a homestead? For example, the Zezuru, I was saying, we have a Zezuru hut, a Zezuru structure, which is a Shona structure, a Zimbabwean structure. The main one, which is built first, which is called Mother's Domain. Normally, its door has to face west. It cannot face anywhere else. It has to face west. The other minor structures can come around it and they could be facing any which way. But this one in particular has to face west. So those are some of the aspects that then inspired Christina as she went on to design the, the main gallery and the minor galleries, including the studio spaces. Yeah, I don't know whether I've left anything.
For sure, this could be answered by Chico and me from different perspectives. The way I came to that landscape of Dzimbanhete for the first time, when you arrive, you seem it's a huge area with a lot of different structures and styles happening on the ground, which you might not understand in the first time, like within the first, arrival time minutes. But the more you get into the space and the more you have, for example, explanations or a tour around all those different sites, the Old Africa Village, for example, the spiritual site, you get into the thinking of people who live there, and it becomes so much interesting and strong that you really think, wow, how do we think that our modern designs are always like developed with deep, deep thoughts, but they are so basic. The more you understand how those houses have been developed through time with a lot of knowledge by the people who live, and not necessarily by planners like architects or engineers. So after a few hours, or when you're finishing with the first round, with the first tour of explanations and deep insights, you start being just overwhelmed by all this knowledge that is just visible, or that becomes visible through different components of the buildings, like the roof, like the structure of the roof, like benches, like the walls itself, the shapes and the forms of them, and how much meaning is in all those different materials and building components, although it seems quite a small space in the beginning, but then with all those explanations, it becomes super big. And this is what is really, really inspiring, and what attracted me a lot to keep on working on this project, or actually to start working on the gallery.
No, thank you so much for all that information. Like we can see that there was really a collaboration. And going to the next question, we wanted to ask like how was that like collaboration negotiated? Were there like any tensions between like the modern design technologies or any like traditional building methods? Like how was that discussion made through all the design process?
Conflicts? Well, no. I believe what I've seen in Christina is she's one of those who likes challenges. Because when I look at the school that she built on the other side, and when I look at this design that she worked on, uh, they're very different. The only thing that's similar is the brick, the red brick, the face brick. And yeah, I think she also understood the essence of the culture itself and how it informs the architecture, which has been also on one of our desires, basically to say creativity cannot just be left to go wild. It can, but it cannot just go wild, particularly in things that people use, in things that communities engage with. And in particular, in this community, in this society here, where there are layers and layers and layers of underlying information in everything we do. For example, she also understood how we, before we go on to build a structure, we actually have to kneel down and acknowledge the owners of the land, acknowledge those who were buried in that land before we can go on to build. So it's those things. I think we shared them in a way that they did not sound like conflicting to her designs, but as concepts that she, in her appreciation of challenges, she would take up. I
Thank
would
you so
want to
much.
hear your side too. Yeah.
Yeah, Christina, we were just talking about how was like that negotiation between like the modern design technologies and the traditional buildings, and well, Chico was giving his insights, and we will love to hear about yours.
Okay, hello. First of all, I hope, can you hear me? Yeah. Um, Sorry for the delay. I'm having some technical problems today.
Welcome.
Thanks. So, um, well, I heard you speaking about the school project. Maybe this is something I should start with. I have been working in like Hopely, a settlement in the south of Harare for almost like 10 years. And I have been involved in the school project as an architect because I did the design for the school. We worked together with a project group in the whole planning during the whole planning phase from Germany and together with our builders from Zimbabwe, from Harare as well. So this is how I got introduced quite deeply into the like daily life of Zimbabwean people, the Shona people living in Hopely. At one time I decided to move as well to the same area, towards close to the school. I lived within a family, and this was basically my like deepest insights into the culture of Shona people, of Zimbabwean people. And I got really interested in what's actually happening in the daily life, also at life at school, on our construction site for sure. And yeah, as Chico already explained, I at some point got to meet him and Dzimbanhete. I went there together with a friend who is an architect as well. She lives and works in Harare, and I got quite impressed by the knowledge that's available through the buildings and through like the elements that have been used and materials to build spaces. And all of this happens without the involvement of architects. So I got a tour actually at Dzimbanhete, and it was really, really interesting to see how everything is going to be shaped, or how the structure evolves from cultural reasons and habits of the people who live in those structures. I then decided to follow up this cultural impact on architecture, and at the same time, I have started a PhD in Germany at the Technical University of Berlin. It is a design-based PhD program. That means that our research focuses on our own designs. It's not necessarily something purely scientific. For sure, we do also have like text scientific written aspects, but the main content or the main topic of this PhD program is to get into a new knowledge which evolves from our own design as architects. So at that point, I was wondering if cultural beliefs or cultural habits can influence or affect the design of buildings. And I started to set up the first part of my work, of my PhD, which is more a documentation of the built projects that I have designed, which is the school, which is another project, like a pavilion, and also like a smaller project. It's part of this bigger school project, but it's the borehole of that site, which we also built together with the same team of the school project. And with this documentation, I saw that there's some kind of links between the knowledge of the workers, like the more, let's say, unconscious knowledge, which is there through experience and through like many years working in that field of construction, and the traditional building methods of the Shona or the Zimbabwean people in this case, because most of our workers are the Shona people. So I found it super interesting to see that through this knowledge of our workers, we have changed details or joints, connections in the school project on site. So not for sure, not everything was directly constructed the way we planned it before. So we had some adjustments to do. on site, and by like making sketches of all the details of that project and like drawing to show how we have solved those adjustments. Then I compared them with the traditional Shona, the traditional Zimbabwean architecture, or let's say building components. So the second part actually of my work was then to not only document what I have been done, but to bring this into a new design of a new project. So the results of that documentation, I was interested to let those results create the new space. And then, as I have already met Chico and Dzimbanhete, and as he already explained, we had a lot of discussions and interesting topics to talk about when we were together there. We came up with the idea that this gallery space, which was needed from them, could be like kind of this research project that I was in need of, kind of. So we came together and decided that I would like to work on this new architecture project for them, and they are also like interested to have this my cultural documentation being part of that architecture project. So the second step was then to for me, first of all, to understand what's happening at the Dzimbanhete space, what's happening in the families, in the people's daily life. Why are buildings built the way they are? And this was really helpful to understand through the All Africa Village. So this was maybe the beginning of this our current project, and at the moment the design phase is more or less done. So we are preparing to start the construction site, hopefully in a few months.
Oh, that's lovely. Um, Now, how did getting into programs like AD help elevate and strengthen the African architectural heritage while protecting the integrity of local art, the crafts, and the expressions of the people? And how is this now represented on new platforms like this?
In my opinion, well, basically speaking about architecture these days is focusing on industrial materials, which are definitely reshaping how architecture is being dealt with these days in Zimbabwe, in other countries as well that I have visited, that I can for sure then speak of. And it does not, in my opinion, show the reality or show what's best needed for those communities. So I find it super interesting and important actually that the traditional ways of building and the traditional materials are being shown more digitally, but for sure also on the ground, on the sites. But for the beginning, they need to be put back in the interest of architects or people who are designing or planning buildings. So for sure, one option is like the AD platform, which is a very important and a good one, showcasing other projects that are dealing with similar issues or with similar projects. So for my side, it's something that is happening these days using expensive materials which are not climate-based, which are not understood through through daily life or through the habits, but they are just the common way of building with. Also, regulations for sure are a big topic. Sometimes it's just not possible to use like indigenous or traditional materials, especially for the structure of a building. But this is when we talk about, let's say, not huge building, not high rises or something like that, which for sure needs industrial materials. But let's speak about the average of buildings, and they are rather small than big. So a lot of buildings don't really need all those, let's say, new materials. But to bring this back into the minds of, as I said, all those are planning and building buildings and architecture, it needs to be showcased.
Maybe,
And this
Chico, if
is
you
what I
want
really
to
appreciate through the
continue with
AD
the
platform.
question.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't quite get the question, but in terms of say the transition of the materiality of these indigenous structures and that transition onto bricks and something more modern like that. Remember, we are also coming from the creative, from the art side, and we welcome also contemporary ideas that take from what's there within the indigenous knowledge systems and elevating it to that contemporary level where more people can get to appreciate. Of course, there's durability in bricks more than in mud and poles. So I'm sure if Christina's designs will actually inspire people into rethinking the way they've been building over the years. I believe these structures are going to change how people view architecture in a way, even in terms of a house, in terms of um, property. There's much to do with rectangular, square structures for no apparent reason. There's much ado with structures that then demand air conditioning and like artificial air conditioning when architecture can have those things well inbuilt. So I'm actually excited. I don't see any conflict with us getting other structures that present what Christina's idea is about architecture is with regards to the indigeneity of what we have at the All Africa Village.
Yeah. I think part of the question was how has platforms like AD helped amplify what you guys are doing in Dzimbanhete?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hear it now. Yes, architecture for development is well, to amplify it first, it's about conceiving it, having the concept. We've been working with Christina here, like in our own ways, her own ways, our own ways, and we've been like on our own private journey. So when the AD call came about, it now brought us together to see how we can put in writing our very concept, which honestly we had not done. We just knew what's supposed to happen, but we had not packaged it in order for us to present it to anyone. So AD that was the first part. It gave us that opportunity to put together our package. And then once we forwarded it and we actually heard that we had been selected, it was like honestly, we touched the sky because it was like, okay, so we are doing something that means something to the world. And then being like, being shown on that platform and us also seeing what other people are doing really helped our spirits. So we believe being on that platform will also, in as much as other people's projects are visible to us, our project is also getting to be visible to others and beyond. So we are so happy to be on that platform.
Perfect. I think that's very important to highlight more the work you do. And coming to another important part of the project, it's the webpage that you also launched. Could you tell us a little bit more about it and how is that being also transformative to the project?
So we have two platforms. We have the Dzimbanhete website, and then we have the one that's recently launched by Christine.
Yeah, so the Dzimbanhete webpage.
The Dzimbanhete webpage. Yes, the Dzimbanhete webpage has added so much to our visibility, basically like any other website, and we can judge that by quantifying the number of people who have now even visited our site. Just before this meeting, I had to take people for a tour. Young couple that came from Switzerland. I had to take them through, and they saw they saw our website. So basically, the website and other social media, they are doing pretty much to to propel our idea. Recently, Christina has launched her own website as well, which we are going to link to the main Dzimbanhete website, so that we create that loop is completed. People see what she's talking about and what we're talking about on the other end to make it more complete.
Perfect. Coming back a little bit more to the design principles, could you tell us a little bit more about which design principles were considered to highlight the diverse African cultures, and how were these adapted to honor the sacredness of the site and the connection to the ancestral memory of the place?
So thank you. I wish Christina was here and not locked out by technology, but I'll try. It was through our discussions, right? Normally, when somebody comes to Dzimbanhete, what we do to honor them properly, we take them through a tour where we show them everything we have and where it's coming from and why we do things the way we do. And this is what we did with Christina. And before that, we had done it with other people as well. We have on the contemporary side, we have another structure which was created by a duo from the US called Luftwerk. It's a permanent installation, and this was done during the COVID time. Again, from there, we gathered the momentum to be able to explain to others the concepts, the underlying concepts within the architecture, so they could come up with something new. That was a piece of art, but now this is a space which is usable. So I'll just take you through a guide of the space of the mother's domain, which has its door facing the west, because basically the winds, which are not just winds according to our culture, but the wind, the whirlwinds, those are spirits of those gone before us that are traveling. So as they travel, they sometimes some of them need to rest. Some of them will hold on somewhere before they continue with the journey. So you don't want to face the east, otherwise you get lots of good, bad things having to deal with every time in that homestead. So it faces west, so the wind passes by. Then as you enter on your left side, that's where men sit, and there's a built-in bench. That bench uh, is not, it's not there because men get to sit on it, but yes, also because men have to sit on a place that's higher, because this is not their space. Remember, it's mother's domain. So they need to get up quickly. They just come in there to be fed and then they leave. Otherwise, mothers are the ones who are to be in that space. This space is also on the other quarter, which is the right side. That's where mothers get to sit. And this is on the ground. And in our concept, in our psychology, the psychology of the culture, is that when you're sitting on the ground and your legs are stretched out, you own that space. You are the proprietor. The proprietor does not sit on a high space. That makes them easy to get up. the proprietor has to sit on the floor well stretched out. We have in that space also now in the east of the interior. That's where you get the altar, where when we get to petition our ancestors, petition the spirit world, petition the land for something, that's where we kneel down. It's in the east. So basically, you would not have a window on that side because there's already a sacred part on the inside. Those are some of the things that we discussed with Christine, including the roof itself, where within the thatch, there are those poles that go up, and then there are those that round up, holding the ones that go up until they get to a cone, to that cone shape. Now, those are representative also of the male and female, and even in numbers. The ones going up signifying the ribs of a man on both sides. The ones going round representing the ribs of a woman on one side. So the numbers are not random. So again, here we're opening up the idea for her to understand that some things that look like they are random or they were done by people who simply could build and like things that work. But to understand that no, everything had a meaning, everything is there for a purpose. So that purposeful approach to architecture is what we're bringing in here. And for me, when she then goes to create an interpretation of some of these things using brick, it's almost like bringing the spirit into modern architecture. Because for us, like modern architecture is dead. You know, it's just there. It helps, it's shelter, but it's dead shelter. It doesn't speak to you. But here now we're creating architecture that speaks to the environment, that speaks to the person who is interacting with it.
No, I love how the architecture speaks to the environment through materiality, and also from the local point of view, the material itself, it seems to be sustainable. So that's a good thing. I also love how the spirituality of the people is incorporated into the architecture. You know, that story is in where they live within their spaces. So that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So in closing, can you maybe try and tell us how you envision this whole village as a bridge between the Pan-African creative identity and the whole global cultural discourse?
I envision the cultural village
As,
as a continental thing.
yeah, as a bridge between we have the in Africa we have the way we do things, and then the global world also have the way it does things. So how do you
Mhm.
envision this as a bridge, sort of a bridge, for lack of a better word, yeah, a bridge between the Pan African world versus the global cultural discourse?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's not even versus. I believe once we have this space, uh, the two spaces complete, the studio side and the gallery side, once it's complete, that one functions as well in terms of networking and functioning for the artists globally, not just on the continent. Of course, the continent is closer, but globally, again, there will be exhibitions, there will be artists in residency, which projects we've already explored, having artists from as far as Kenya, as far as Burkina Faso, coming and staying and working and producing their work while they are here. And that also, now imagine having an artist from Burkina Faso. They come here, they are working in a studio, and their village is also there. You know, their village, their indigenous village is also there. That creates a space where they feel so much like they're at home. Then talking about the global world, this All Africa Village becomes like a window through which they see all the cultures. Yes, in their sort of reduced space or percentage, and if they so wish to really immerse in the bigger culture, they can always travel to that specific culture in that specific country. But this becomes a window into some of the aspects of African culture, of African architecture, and African ways of being, ways of knowledge. We had a meeting, Christina and a Zimbabwean, a local engineer who will be working with her, where they were discussing. I was just like a bystander in the conversation while they were discussing the engineering now of making this thing feasible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good we're also getting some support from the local end.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily last time we also got some insights after our technical difficulties, but we will sure see if we can get more information from her, which is also very valuable. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us in this first part, and we will tune into the next episode where we'll be learning and discussing more about the local global collaboration and how it enhances design. So, thank you so much for this first part.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was wonderful that we went through without any disturbances, at least from this end. Thank you so much.